Welcome to yet another exciting edition of the Checkup Tete a Tete. Today's interview is with a renowned name in surgery, Dr. S.K. Mathur, who is in conversation with Dr. Rajesh Nathani. Dr. S.K. Mathur, popularly known as SKM, was the professor of surgery at St. G.S. Medical College and KM Hospital for 16 years and the HOD General and GI Surgery at Topiwala National Medical College and Nair Hospital until 1998. Subsequently, he was consultant GI, HPB, and liver transplant surgery at Bombay Hospital, followed by Wokhad and Fortis hospitals, where in 2006 he started the liver transplant program. Dr. Mathur was instrumental in starting the DNB GI surgery program at Jagjeevan Ram Railway Hospital and Fortis Hospital, Mulund. He is the recipient of the French government postdoctoral fellowship and underwent training in the field of liver transplantation in France and USA between 1989 and 1990. He has published over 135 scientific papers in international and national journals. He has also written chapters in books and delivered over 15 orations. He has been a guest speaker at both national and international conferences. Due to his expertise and skill, Dr. S.K. Mathur is considered an international authority in the management of portal hypertension, and his innovative surgical techniques are quoted in many international textbooks. Despite his many accolades, Dr. Mathur's main passion has always been teaching and managing patients with complex GI, HPB diseases, and liver transplant procedures. Since 1995, he has been a member of the advisory group to the Government of Maharashtra for implementation of disease donor organ transplantation within the state. Currently, he is the honorary president of the Zonal Transplant Coordination Center in Mumbai, which oversees diseased organ donation and distribution.
Good evening, sir. Today I have had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. S.K. Mathur, a great GI and hepatobiliary surgeon for many years and a teacher at KEM Hospital and then at Bombay Hospital for, decades. Many of us have been his students, though I was not fortunate enough since had trained primarily from Nair, so I did not get a chance to work with sir. But from whatever I have interacted with him, I've always been very impressed. And I'm sure that this will carry through in the interview, and all leaving this interview will go home with a lesson learned and having been inspired. He's currently the main coordinator of the ZTCC, the Zonal Transplantation Coordination Committee. Amongst his many facets of his life, he has now dedicated himself to a purely noble cause where he ensures equitable and fair transplantation program in our city. I welcome you, sir, on the show, and thank you very much for taking the time off to do this interview.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thanks for the kind introduction.
So let's start at the beginning. I understand you did your medical college in Madhya Pradesh. Could you please tell us where did you graduate from, your MBBS, your MS?
So it's known as Gajraraja Medical College. It was founded in 1946 on 1st of August. So it has just completed its platinum jubilee.
Excellent.
About 7 days back.
Yes, sir.
That institution I'm proud of being the student here because it has given the head of surgery department to AIIMS Delhi.
Wow.
It gave to the principal of Lady Hardinge Medical College in Delhi. So it has a lot of people who were legend from that. I'm just a very small person.
Not at all, sir. You, in fact, you are very much there on that list. And the diverse work that you have done is really commendable. So, sir, what after finishing your MS, was your hometown in the same place or was your hometown in Mumbai?
So my hometown kept on changing. So my father was in the government job.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so he used to get transferred every now and then as per the government job requirement. So I was born in Vidisha, which is a district place which was known at that time. And I moved to multiple cities as per my father's transfers, which used to happen every two years.
So, how did you get to Mumbai finally? I mean, was it voluntary or was it also part of your father's transfers?
No, no. So Mumbai was an, I will say, accident. Okay. I will use the word accident and later on come to what is the destiny. The reason is when I passed my BSc Part 1, which was the entrance exam for uh, getting into the medical college at that time. I wanted to study in one of the best colleges in the country. Wrote to all the Chennai, that was time Madras University, Bombay University, Calcutta University. But everywhere the admission process was over. So I had no choice but to get into the medical college in MP only, which was okay because later on I realized what great medical college that was. After finishing my MS, initial my plan was to join neurosurgery department. My chief was a neurosurgeon of second generation of this country. So I got interested in that. I joined the department, but then that's where the destiny happens or accident happens. That I got engaged to my wife, okay, and she was from Delhi, and I decided to move to Delhi. So that's why I joined as a senior registrar in Maulana Azad Medical College in Delhi, and spent around 3 years, 3.5 years there. So once I finished that, now the choice was either to go into the private practice, go abroad, which I was not keen to, or look for the academic job, which was my choice. Now, that time in Delhi, the UPSC used to advertise the post, which used to happen once in 2 years. The year I finished my senior residency, that year only that interviews were over. So I knew that for 2 years, there is no chance for me to get into any of the medical college in Delhi. Okay. So I was looking for the job, and it happened that I got its first job in with Government Medical College Surat as a assistant. Now I took it that as a stopgap arrangement. But I always wanted to go back to Delhi. At that time, that was the plan. And while working in Government Medical College Surat, there were challenges, but it's a medical college which didn't provide any research atmosphere, which I was keen to do. Though I did some clinical work and all that thing for 2 years. So I was looking for the opportunity to get at a better place. And there was advertisement from Maharashtra Public Service Commission for the post of reader in surgery in Bombay Municipal Corporation. It didn't specify the college or anything. And I just applied. And so it was an accident that time. And then when I applied, I got the interview letter. I decided to give a chance. I was advised by the people, the senior surgeons in Surat, why are you wasting your time and energy and also the money to go to Mumbai? You know that you have no chance to get selected. Like, okay, I will go and have fun. It's okay. So I traveled by the night train, came in the morning, Bombay Central, got down, changed over and went to the MPSC office. And the interview was, it went in a different way. I was prepared that, yes, it is just, I'm going there for fun sake. And I will say that why I call it the accident, and then I will say it is destiny. During the interview, later I came to know it was the head of department of surgery from JJ Hospital, Dr. Jimvikar, who was the chief expert. And there was a dean of Nair, Dr. Kenkre. He was BMC representative, and plus the other panel was there. And Jimvikar asked me something about peritonitis at that time and all that. Unfortunately for me, it was just, this is a luck that in Delhi, while doing my rotation in the pediatric surgery, I've done some studies on the bacterial flora in primary peritonitis and secondary peritonitis in children. And that paper was published. Fortunately, the whole interview went on that. Once the expert thing was over, suddenly a voice came, and later on I came to that was Dr. Kekrit, the dean of Nair. And he said, Dr. Mathur, we don't provide the accommodation to the people. I was taken aback. So suddenly I said, yes, sir, I will take a private accommodation. Not knowing in Mumbai what private accommodation means, what are the rents. The chairman laughed. Mr. Deshmukh was the chairman. And laughed and they said, Dr. Mathur, do you know what is the rent in Mumbai? Your pay will go in that, whole pay. So innocently, I just said, my wife is also doctor. And the reply came, we don't provide job to your wife. Now, when that came, that reflexively my answer was, okay, she will go in the private practice.
Huh.
And that was the end of the story. The chairman started laughing and he said, okay, good, go. Interview is over. I didn't know what will happen. But within 10 days of that interview, I got a letter that I have been selected.
Excellent. Excellent.
So that's, I would say that it's an accidental this time.
So, sir, I understand that you were posted at KEM Hospital after that?
Yeah. So I was given the appointment. It was not that easy job to get that appointment. Because once I got the letter, I waited for the appointment letter to come. For 2 months, there were no news. Then I wrote a letter because I knew only the BMC address. So I wrote to the BMC. They directed to the GS Medical College. And then there was no reply, almost for 4 or 5 months. So it was almost June that I didn't get the reply. So I decided to travel to Mumbai and go to head office to find out what is happening. So I had confirmed job in Surat. There was no issue from that point of view, but yes, out of curiosity, I came. And that was a little upsetting. And that was that head office said that you go to meet the dean of the GS Medical College. The file is there. I came to GS Medical College. There used to be an office superintendent, Mr. Gokhale, who used to sit outside the dean's office. His office was outside. Dr. Sri K. Deshpande was the dean. And he looked at me and he looked at the file and all that thing. He said, you meet the director of our surgical department. I won't like to name him because he's no government. So I went to his, he was in the OPD. I went to there and introduced myself and said, sir, I have been selected. I want to know whether I will be appointed, when I will be appointed. And said, how can you be selected? We don't have any post. You must be on the waiting list. So please, we don't have any vacancy. You are mistaken. You must not have been selected. You must be on the waiting list. And that's a wait list. People are not usually informed if they are waitlisted. But okay, if you say so, I will go to MPSC office. Yes, you can go there, but you are not here. I felt insulted at that moment. Later on, we became very good. I won't say friend because he was very senior, but yes, he was very supportive to me. And that is the time I had to go to the MPSC office, meet the secretary, showed him the letter, and I asked him innocently, am I on the waiting list or was I selected? He said, no. He looked in the file. He said, no, you've been selected. We recommended your name. No reason why they should not be appointing you. Okay, you give in writing and we will take up. And that is the trigger for the dean to issue the appointment letter.
Great, sir. Great.
So it came in July, almost 6 months.
When you entered KEM, and I understand moving from one place to another is always a little stormy. And of course, you are used to it because, as you said, that you kept moving with your dad's transfers. But this is something which I have noted actually with my residents also in Lilavati, because most of our residents are from out of state. There is a sort of a culture shock coming into Mumbai. I don't know whether it is for good or for bad, but it is totally different working in Mumbai as compared to working outside Mumbai. So how did you adjust to work, getting used to the Mumbai way of life, where one of the biggest things I found in my residents keep calling even people who are 1 year senior or junior to them as sir and madam. Whereas, I mean, that whole concept was so, strange to us who have been trained from Mumbai and have lived all our life in Mumbai, where people plus and minus 5 years would be just friends and it would be first name basis. So right from that to say the food, the ways of life, the busy, crowded, and where really nobody cares for anybody. And you're just sort of an, incognito peg in the whole system. So how did you adjust to this different way of life?
So Rajesh, I always take it that if you don't know anything about something, that means you are totally blank. I think you don't fear for it. And that's what was the case with me. I didn't know anything. As I said in the interview, I didn't know what are the rents in Mumbai. Whether you have to pay the pagadi and all that, I didn't have any idea about this. And so I came with an open mind. I never thought that I'm going to face any problem. Let's put it this way. Though some people did tell me in Surat, did advise me why you are going here, you will be drop in ocean. While in Surat, by that time, 2 years, I was getting established. So he said, you can go and private practice, earn a lot of money. Okay, that is not the aim in my life. So I came with a very open mind. I didn't try to study anything about Mumbai. I will tell you frankly. This was my second visit because my first visit was in 65 when I came as a student for a scientific tour. So that is what we saw was a sightseeing. So that doesn't give you insight into the actual Mumbai life.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
So that way means I was with the open mind. Actually, I didn't know anything. Let me put it this way. So I have no fear in my life. Yes, the biggest help, and that's where now the destiny starts playing the role. As I mentioned that I was told that there is no accommodation. So first thing I wanted to be sure there is accommodation because I realized yes, I can't take a house on the rent. And Dr. C.K. Deshpande was very kind. Before joining, I met him and I said, this is the thing. So he told me that there is a small house of corporation at municipal tenements. Okay, it's at the Worli Sea Face. There's a municipal complex. And we have the quarters there. It's a 1 bedroom. You go and see. If you feel, I will allow. It's lying there.
Very nice.
And then my family moved from Surat to this place along with them. Yeah, it was a small place, 1 bedroom, but it was nice of him to allow that. So that was the first thing which that what you are saying, the indifferent attitude. I was not greeted with that.
Oh, great. Wonderful, sir. No, but overall, I mean, even in your interaction with your colleagues, with the students, you must have found a difference. And did it put you off, or how did you deal with it?
I was posted in Dr. Samsi's unit as his assistant. And Mon Kopikar was the lecturer in the unit. And I remember that I think Manu Sopti was the registrar, one of the registrars. So I met these people. I was introduced and this thing, and Dr. Samsi was very nice. He was very friendly, and he said, whatever you want, we'll help you out at your personal level also. Join the unit, and he made me comfortable in the unit. That was another thing to begin with. But yes, I was assigned a junior clinical batch, and I started teaching. I think I loved teaching, so there was no issue on that. And I didn't disappoint my students. I don't know what is their reaction today, what they will recall. I think our batch was the first batch, and she was in that batch. Yes, but then that thing starts happening. That once I was asked to go and discuss some case with one of the senior plastic surgeons. It was a case of luteal hemangioma, huge hemangioma in a young girl, and it required reconstruction after accident and all that. Now, this is the what you were talking about, the shock wall, because when I joined, I decided to wear the apron with a half sleeve. I thought that is hygienically better, not realizing that half sleeve in KEM is meant for lecturer and the residents, not for the AP and the professors. So when I went to discuss the case, along with, I don't know whether Manu was there or somebody else went with me. And he looked at me and in a very curt manner, he told his resident, इनको लाइब्रेरी में वो प्लास्टिक सर्जरी की बुक है जरा उनको जाके बोलो जाके पढ़. That was his thought, which was quite insulting, because he thought that I am one of perhaps the residents and or at the most junior lecturer. I took it for. I didn't say anything. I said, okay, I will definitely read. But there was another person who was very kind and advised me rightly. And that was Geeta Bhandarkar's father. He was head of endocrinology. And what happened that there was a case of thyroid swelling, and that clinically it looked like whether it is malignancy or not. So when in Surat, by one of the residents of my senior had done a thesis on thyroid lymphography, and that was some new study which were coming at that time to diagnose this thing, and they spread to the lymph node. So I suggested to something, and he said, yeah, why not we try it? So on that, there was some issue, and he had interaction, and he told me one thing, Dr. Mathur, you are new to this place. First, win the confidence of everybody. The day the staff and your colleague start sending patients to you, you know you have established it. And that was very nice advice. I'm really thankful. I was quite thankful to him at that time and now.
Sir, I understand you joined as a general surgeon and then you focused on to your GI surgery and then eventually hepatobiliary surgery. So can you tell us more about your evolution of your interests?
So general to GI surgery transformation happened for two reasons. One is that in, after joining about in 8 or 9 months, after working hard, and I think the head of department, other people were happy with me and thought that yes, I was competent enough to handle the things. Dr. Bhalerao, who was the head of department, called me and said that, see, we have got endoscope. Only upper GI endoscope is being used, and it gets spoiled every 3 months. And ERCP instrument is there, colonoscope is there, and nobody wants to use it. Would you like to develop this endoscope? So it was again God sent opportunity for me. I was exposed to upper GI endoscopy when I was in Maulana Azad as a senior resident, because that unit was GI surgery unit there. So I said, okay, I will take the charge. He put two conditions. He said, I will get the endoscope repaired, but after that, it is your duty to see that the endoscopes don't get spoiled. Number one. Number two, you have to train the juniors. So it is a tough time that you have to make the juniors do the endoscopy as well as see that endoscopes don't get it. And I took up that challenge. And that's where we started. So that was the one thing. Second thing, late Dr. S.R. Nayak, Subhash Nayak, he joined medical gastroenterology, came from PGI Chandigarh. And that was the second reason. He encouraged me to get into the GI surgery, because that was very new specialty at that time. Only Chennai had MCH at that time. And AIIMS had got just a separate department. For me, it was fortunate because KEM had its GI surgical services, which were headed again by Dr. Palirao, and Dr. Bapat was the second in command. And I was accepted in as a third person in that department. So that's where it started. Second thing was total hypertension. Somehow or other I was fascinated because when in Surat, the people should know that in Surat there are a lot of cases of extrahepatic portal. And in that 2 years stint, I had to operate on them because they used to come in emergency. And that time endoscopy was not developed. Therapeutic endoscopy was not developed. And there was nothing else except to operate on them. So I started doing the more severe operation in emergency for control. So that was the first step into that, in that direction. And here with the Dr. Bajirao being legend in the portal hypertension, I thought this is the right opportunity to get into it, and with the development of the sclerotherapy for Varicose. So that was the first step in that direction.
So I understand that you are very academically inclined, research, and you had a great dogs lab on which you would do your shunts, and your residents had to report as much on the dogs as well as on the patients in the ward. This was well beyond the call of your routine duties. So how did you accommodate as far as the time is concerned? And how did you motivate your residents to do this?
If you look at the working of each unit, see, and once I got my unit, I could divide my time in the work. That one thing is that I won't take the round on daily basis. So I will know about each and every patient. So the pre-emergency day is a free day, comparatively. So I decided that will be the day for the dog lab. So residents are also relaxed and everything. And I have also had time. So that day, the morning time, I will assign one person and I will devote the time. The emergency and post-emergency are heavy, and then comes the operation. So, and the post-op. So that period will be kept aside, we will not be going to the dog lab. Second thing is that once I used to enter the hospital, which used to be around 8:30 or so, I will go to the room only to wear the apron. And my second entry in that room will be in the afternoon, take out the apron to go for the lunch. And third and fourth will be again to put the apron on, and at the time of exit, which used to be for me around 5:30. So I never used to sit in my office, except if I have to correct the thesis or do some office work, which will be a short period, and I'll finish that. So I was a workaholic, let me put it that way.
Yes, that is quite evident, sir. Right? Not only workaholic, very, very focused and career-centric. So that has come through even in my talks with your residents. Then why the move to Nair? Because KM is the premier institution of the municipal college. So relatively, you would say Nair is second, and now you could call it even the third best institution, though it is my parent institution and I will defend it to my last breath. But I'm talking of what the general opinion is.
Yeah, so I will tell you one thing. No institution by itself is a third grade institution. Okay. It's just the culture gets created and the image gets created. Because I think in every institution there are very good persons. And Nair had the first medical gastroenterology department.
Right.
Dr. Antia, and I will tell you, I had a very good.
Dr. A.J. Desai followed, Dr. Kaliramani. In fact, I think I mean, it might be my personal bias, but I personally felt that our surgery and pediatric departments are the best in the city. With a probable comparison being with JJ in terms of surgery and pediatrics. But I think surgery and pediatrics was far better than the other medical college. This is my opinion, of course, but it is a biased opinion.
But that's why. See, like I will tell you, when I was working in Surat Medical College, okay, there were no facilities for research. But still, of my unit, we could produce 4 papers. with 2 international publications. So you don't have to go down to the basic research. You can just do the clinical analysis. As a matter of fact, antibiotic prophylaxis, my thing, coming down to single dose and 2 dose and 3 dose, started in Surat.
That's
Not
amazing.
in
That's amazing.
So that's what one has to do. Now, as far as the going to the Nair, see, KEM, I was well established. Okay, my I was proud of all the residents, all the people who worked with me, and the work which we were doing at that time, which used to be advanced, not only portal hypertension surgery but also liver sections, locals, which were not done even at Tata at that time. And my plan was to start the liver transplant. That was my dream, and which was somehow then not coming. But the major reason was that in 1989, sorry, when I went abroad on my friend's fellowship for getting trained in the liver transplantation, I was already professor, and I was granted concurrence by the Maharashtra Public Health Commission, MPSC. So I was a confirmed professor when I went from there. It happened that when I came back, I was not knowing anything. I started again doing my work as I used to do. And that is the time we started their dog experiment in the liver transplant. And I know Bhaliar's wife was assigned a duty to look after in the evening round. So I'll go to the dog lab and see the dog is alive or not. And she will give the parameters for the dog. So thing was that the tradition was that whenever there is a head of department post becomes vacant, whether in Nair science, the senior most professor amongst the 3 medical colleges will be asked to the option. And most of the time, from KEM, nobody wanted to go. That's how Dr. Dilip Trivedi became head of department, while Dr. Bapat and other people were senior to him. He opted, and I think he did the wise thing at that time.
We were lucky in Nair because I have been Dr. Trivedi's student, and I consider him an excellent surgeon.
I know that. Means I also appreciate that. So he did the right thing at that time. Now, what happened that when the first option came, this was before even I went abroad. So Dr. Shenoy was, though we were in the same batch as far as MPSC selection is concerned, but he joined before me because the reason I told you already. So he was that way, by joining, he was senior to me. So he refused. And I was also concentrating on my work in KEM. I said, no, I'm not interested in going to Nair. Because that this time Dilip Trivedi was leaving Nair. Dr. Shiratti and Dr. Hardikar, who were junior to us, they opted out and they took the opportunity to go. So Dr. Shiratti became GI surgery head and Hardikar became the head of general surgery. So that time we were asked the option. Now what happened when Shiratti was to go to the sign as a team? So again, the head of department post became available. And by tradition, they are supposed to ask. And it was just that one day I was walking through our establishment department, and I asked that head clerk there, why this time you didn't ask before appointing the next person? And he looked at me and he said, sir, it's a confidential, but I will let you know. And he said that your seniority is under question. What? That was a shocker to me. And he said that your concurrence has been withdrawn by the MPSC. And he showed me quietly the file. This, we were talking in 92. And this event has happened in 1990 when I was abroad. Means I was not communicated that there is something problem. The most important thing, this was a created problem. There was nothing truth in that. But the moment I came to know, now the question came that if I keep quiet, saying that I am not aware, and tomorrow they decide to demote me, because in writing they've got on file, which is there, I'll be in great problem. So I took this way that I wrote to the team that I've come to know that the head of department post is vacant, and I was not given the choice to do. So that was the starting. Then came the whole mouse out of the basket that no, this happened, your concurrence has been withdrawn. Now, once it came in writing, I had to start fighting. We start with the typical government job that you start writing to the first wrote to the dean, met the dean along with Dr. Shamsi. And Gol answered that no, it happened this way, that way, and this thing. We are taking up the issue. And if you are taking up the issue, I should know what is the situation. We'll let you know. So then I wrote to the DMC, AMC, municipal commissioner, met them, showed them the whole list of seniority, and showed them that how I've been targeted while people around me are not touched, while my seniority was well established. And so these are. So there is no MPSC. So MPSC comes again. And that is the time, again, I wrote to MPSC, went and met them. They said that there was a problem, but not created by us. It originated from yours, from BMC side. So I knew what was going on. I don't want to name the people who were involved in it. But when nothing was happening, so I met the commissioner, and every time I used to take the proper permission. I still preserve those papers that I write to the dean, that kindly grant me permission to meet the mayor, meet the commissioner, meet the this, that. And one fine day, morning, I get a call from Dr. Shamsi. The dean wants to meet you, and she's very angry. What you have done? I've not done anything except writing the representation and meeting the people with, and that is with your knowledge and permission. My immediate reaction was, Mankasi, what was wrong in my meeting if nobody is looking at my case and nobody wants to give the answer? When she again started telling Dr. Shamsi that no, he's doing wrong thing. Dr. Shamsi tried to hold my hand and said, please. So I just told her, since I'm not getting remedy here, can I go to the court? And that was shocker to her. She never expected anybody saying that. Yeah. And that was the answer. Thank you very much. Fortunately for me, I knew a person, late Raja Bhonsle. So I have no choice but to file a court case, and they state that I will remain and nobody can revert me to any post until the case is decided. So this was in 92, this happened. And then I was at peace. I continued my work as it is. Till in 96 October, the case came for hearing. 11 o'clock was the case. Whole day we sat as usual in the case. At 4 o'clock in the evening, the case. It was in the court of the Justice B.N. Sri Krishna. I think everybody knows him.
Yes.
Very strict and honest, and people were afraid of it. So case was called in, and MPSC lawyer was there, BMC lawyer was there, government lawyer was there. The three people sitting there. And he asked for okay. So he took my name and said, where is your advocate on record? So I said, he's not well, he can't come. So he would like to hire somebody. I said, no, I want to plead my case. So it was a little shocker to him also. And he said, Dr. Mathur, do you know one thing? That if you start pleading your case or arguing your case in the law, if you are on the losing side, then you cannot get the advocate. So are you really inclined to argue your case? I was quite confident. Yes, sir. I have no problem. So he said, think twice. Okay, yes, sir, I have thought of. I'm going to argue. And what was their argument? It's like, see, what we do, case presentation, which as a teacher, I'm quite apt to. So it was a case for me. I presented the whole thing. Only thing, I prepared that summary thing, like what we do in the exam. and went by one fact, second fact, and kept on telling him, refer to exhibit number, this exhibit number, this exhibit number, this. I will say, he will open that. He knew he will read that. At the end of 1 hour, it was 1 hour presentation to him, oral, and he was convinced with these things that really I am on the right side. And he asked the opposition advocate, what is the thing? What do you say? So those people try to harp on that seniority again by giving the wrong answer. And he was very sharp. He said, listen, what he has presented, there's nothing wrong with his seniority. You people are on the wrong side. So don't argue. And that time, one of the advocates got up and he said, sir, but I want adjournment. Because he realized the case is going against him. I want adjournment. He said, what is the reason? He said, the BMC has submitted one affidavit today in the morning. Now that affidavit copy was given to me also in the court. That's typical BMC thing. I've sat there, it was 6-7 pages. I read it, the whole day was there. So I knew there was nothing, but they wanted adjournment. So the secretary looked at me and he said, see, I have to give them advertisement. Yes, sir. We are learned people. I am, as far as law is concerned, this is the first time I'm looking at it. I could study that affidavit. I'm sure that these people could have done that. You tell me, I don't want to waste your time. You tell me, when should we fix the next date? These were his words. Okay. When should we fix the next date? And that will be the last. This is the last adjournment. He told those people, I'm not going to give you any more adjournment, whatever you say. And next hearing will be the final hearing. I said, this is today's Thursday. Let them study. Next Thursday will be. Same time, 11 o'clock in the morning. And I came out. Rajesh, you will means I was in pleasant surprise that I reached home around say 5:45 or 6 and I get the call from the team. You have been granted the concurrence by the MPs.
Very good. Excellent. So, I mean, okay. Sir, I'm so glad we are going through all this because it may seem long-winded to people, but it brings out the character in you, sir. And, despite the judge warning you twice, you still had the confidence and you obviously did your homework well. You were not going to compromise on your chances. So you were so confident. To the person listening in, I think it's very important that one should be so good and so sure of oneself that one can then take on things which are beyond your specialization because you know that you know more about it than anybody else. Your lawyer was so confident of you. You were confident of yourself. And obviously the judge must have thought. The judges do tend to be a little soft towards the doctors and they try to protect them. And then when he realized that you are obviously speaking with a lot of and with knowledge, then, he allowed you to proceed. So to the audience, a great learning point. We all could incorporate this in our lives. Yes, sir. Then I presume, then you went on to Nair. And how was the difference again in the culture, or were you able to go along the same way as you did when you were in KEM?
So
before that, sir, I forgot to talk about your stint abroad. Why France? Why not Starzl in the US?
So I'll tell you that since I got interested in the liver transplant, this is a little story. One thing, again, I got the inspiration from Dr. Balirao, who had done, though unsuccessful, but the first liver transplant of the country. After the heart transplant in the KEM, he was the one who did that. And he had phenomenal knowledge about the liver and liver function and liver failure. And I got interested in all that thing. And I said, portal hypertension, yes, we are managing. We have developed sclerotherapy, so we are avoiding surgeries and we can rescue the surgeries. So mortality has come down. But for the cirrhotic patients, ultimately, the liver transplant. And 84, when I gone for a stint for the short training in the therapeutic endoscopy, particularly the ERCP standing to Hamburg. On the way back, I decided to stop over in Hanover. Professor Pickelmeyer, they were the fourth liver transplant pillar in the world at that time. Thomas Stargell, who is the father, Sir Roy Kahn in the UK, Henry Bismuth in Paris, and Pickelmeyer in the Germany. These were four big names in the field of liver transplant. And he was a very nice person. He took me around. Unfortunately, no liver transplant happened at that time. I did attend some liver resections. And he gave me his latest publication of that time with his personal signature. And he said, we'll welcome you whenever you want to come for the trip. After coming back, I started doing some experimental work in the dogs and all that thing and wanted to go further. So, that time the Commonwealth Fellowship used to be advertised by the government of India and people used to apply. So I also applied. I thought it is better to go on with the funding for a proper fellowship. And England being English speaking, it will be easier. And Sir Roy Kahn's program was well known at that time. So I applied for the Commonwealth Fellowship. And I got the letter, you have been recommended for the fellowship, but you have to write a project to be sent to and you have to give the name of the hospital where we like to work. I gave the name of Cambridge and gave the project as, because that time what I thought, there was one paper which has been published by Henry Bismuth and his assistant on reduction of the liver for doing the transplant for the pediatric patient. And in that paper, the last sentence was that this technique can be utilized for live donor transplant. Now, this publication was of, I think, 83 or 84, somewhere. And I read that. And I see, this concept appeals to me because we didn't have brain death law at that time. And if we can do a partial liver transplant from living donor, that is the right way to go till the time the brain death gets recognized. But how to prove that? Because in the world literature, it has not happened till then. So, and dog anatomy, liver anatomy is not suitable for doing that kind of transplant. But the pig's anatomy allows in the liver. It's like human anatomy. But we can't do the experiments on the pigs in India. Usually it's not allowed. So I wrote that project that I want to do the work because I know Sir Roy Kahn is a big animal lab. I want to learn the clinical transplant as well as want to do the work in the lab on this concept of the partial liver transplant, which may help us in developing the living donor transplant in India. After a few months, there was no answer, and then I tried to inquire. They said no, it has been rejected because that concept was too much for anybody from the West to understand it. Now, second time, then I said, okay, let me explore other places for this. And that time, the French government fellowships were available. So I applied for the French government fellowship and I got it. And I corresponded with Professor Bismuth and then he said, yes, we will accept you. After finishing there, I wanted to go to the Stargell because that was another place where there was a huge animal lab. And Stargell himself had been a thinker. That's how he started the first liver transplant. And he used to do a lot of work. So I wrote to him that I'm going for this French government fellowship and working with the Henry Bismuth. And after that, I want to come and work with you and want to do the same thing that I asked him to work. By the time I moved to the Paris and reply came that we don't believe in such experimental works, which is useless exercise. It was very curt. If you are thinking that terms, our labs are not available for this, you may better drop your idea. However, if you want to come for the clinical liver transplant, you are most welcome. I knew that there is no point in saying anything and yes, I will accept it. I will come for the clinical transplant. But by that time, when I was in Paris, the first live donor liver transplant happened. Okay. So that time, one failure, which was in Brazil, and the second successful, which was in Australia. And that is the time when the Chicago Christopher Broch, who was a German surgeon, who was in charge of the transplant program, he put up a project for living donor transplant. And he was given, because US, there were no living donor transplant at that time. So he was allowed 20 cases of pediatric liver transplant, living donor, on a project basis, pilot project basis. And I came to know of that. So I wrote to him that I want to come and see that one and assist you in this. After finishing with his target, you come here. And that was the time I got exposed to the living donor pediatric before I came. So that's why I didn't go to Sharjah or I can't first. I have no regret because I learned a lot from him and Christopher Broch.
Yes, sir. Then now, shall we move on to the Nair stint, Nair time?
Yeah, so Nair, yes, I was told, as a matter of fact, I was dissuaded from going to Nair. First thing, that you have won the case, everything is fine. Because my case winning was miraculous because the judge gave the order. Because the order, when the last pronouncement came, that day, in spite of everything, first thing these people say, because they didn't want any stricture to pass against them. Because ultimately, all the authorities, whether BMC or MPSC, we are hand in glove in creating this situation. And so when I went that day, the first thing these people did, they said, sir, we have already given him the consent, so that the case gets finished. As a matter of fact, the day this consent came, I was asked by the dean, you withdraw the case. And I said, I will not give in writing right now. I'll make the statement in the court only to what I have to do. And there, when they got up and they said that the case khatam ho gaya. So Justice he looked at me, he said, but Mathur, you have won, they have given you. And I looked at him and I said, sir, how many years I have waited with all the mental torture and tension? How much energy I have wasted in writing all these representations? Because today it's almost 4 years. Was he sleeping for that time? And he got up. He immediately asked them, yes, why you had a heart change of heart today? Last time you didn't say anything. So one of them started again misarguing, BMC lawyer, trying to raise the same issue which was settled already. The moment he said, you have given him consent now. Now you are again raising the issue. I want all the files related to his first consent given, consent withdrawn, everything. Who took the decision? I will like to fix that. Now, he just gave them order. He said, okay, Mathur, you won the case, there is no issue. But now I will like to, because these people are again trying to raise the same issue, I will like to fix it. Ultimately, it didn't happen. He just gave them the fine of 5,000 each, so 15,000 rupees as a compensation to me. And told that, I think, don't go into the details of all those things because it will unnecessarily spoil your time and waste your time. And yes, sir, I'm fine with it. So then he wrote the order. Order was that I will be considered the deemed head of department from the day I should have been head of department, which was 1988. And also I'll be deemed head of department of GI surgery at Nair because I was already GI surgical professor here. So once that came, I thought it would be unfair for me not to accept.
Correct.
Okay. And I took it as a challenge. So I was told that yes, it is laid back department. The first thing was I was told when the feedback that most of the staff, lecturers and above, after the lunch hour, they are relaxed and some may not be found on the campus. The second was that the lecturers they do the duty from home, call duty, because there is not much work. So all those kind of things, and after 2:30 there is no activity. I knew that how to tackle it. The first thing is that I call the meeting, and I know that, see, you can't dictate the things to the grown-up people. You have to convince them. The only way to convince was, see, the department had the huge office, there were cupboards in which a lot of instruments and a lot of equipment were lying, including endoscope. So first thing I said, just open the holes. And when I saw, I made one associate professor in charge of one item, one cover, one lecture. And your duty is to find out what can be utilized and shift it to the appropriate place. So there were multi-para monitors. I made one person in charge. Rajiv Satoskar was there at that time, and he is a technical-minded person. So I said, you look at it, which are functional, not functional, get them function, and shift it to the trauma one, or if the anesthesia department wants, give it to them. So that's how first thing I made them busy. So the thing was, in the morning, everybody has to be on the rounds and everything. And after that, 2 o'clock onwards, I will sit with them. We'll make the inventory of everything. So everybody has to stay till I am there. And I won't leave the department before 5 o'clock. Then I talked to the lecturers, my own lecturer, and I said, see, you should remember that the patients are more important. And it has started happening that once or twice, if I see a patient is there, I will drive down in the night around 1 o'clock and take the round in the trauma ward or something. So lecturers realize it's not on my own emergency, but otherwise also he drops in. So after that, actually, I got a very good cooperation from everybody. From that onwards, because I realized that they were not being utilized properly. They had desire to do that. And once I gave them the freedom that, yes, you should do the gastroscopy, I will teach you all that thing. And all the equipment which was lying in the cupboards went into the theater, people started using it. And I didn't have to use any force on anybody, not even a wall. Nothing. Everything started moving smoothly. And I was very happy. Means all the people were Rajiv Joshi or Prashad Wagle, Ratna Parikh, even Dr. Shilotri, who was quite senior person. And they were very nice and cooperative. And the whole department, my interaction with the senior people was that we were not really given the responsibility. And that's what the thing. So things started moving. Nice.
Wonderful. So, sir, how long were you there in Nair? And then I understand you moved to Bombay Hospital?
Yes. So now this is something which is people will like to know. On one hand, I never was interested in private practice, and that's why I kept on moving from Delhi to Surat, Surat to Mumbai. As a matter of fact, a lot of times there was some offer you can do private practice on sideways or tuitions and all that. And I said, I'm a committed full-timer. If the day I feel that the pinch of that I need money, I will quit and go to the business. See, the thing is that though I left KEM, one, that I won the case. Second thing, I wanted to be away from that politics thing. And I wanted to do the liver transplant. And we got the permission in Nair Hospital to do the liver. And what happened that we were very close to do the liver transplant. So there was a donor, pediatric donor in KEM. And there was a pediatric recipient who required combined liver kidney. It was Dr. Halankar's case. And I'll tell you that staff in Nair Hospital, the other departments, once I started interacting with them and talked about the liver transplant and made the committees and everything, they were fantastic. These anesthetists, these people were talking all sorts of things. They're all lazy people. But the moment I interacted with them, everybody was so galvanized. Means out of the way, everybody was ready to. That was the situation. So Dr. Halankar had a case of hyperoxaluria and kidney damage and required liver and kidney combined. And there was a size mesh donor. But then the administrative things, who didn't want the liver transplant to happen in my hands in the BMC, they put the spoke into it. and it didn't happen. I don't want to name the people who were collaborative with them, but it's fine. Now that was the one thing. But then I realized I moved from AEM, where I was having so much of work and so much of recognition, not here but outside also, with that name of GS Medical College. And I'm again not able to do the transplant. And the top of that, there was a donation in Nair itself. And the neurosurgeon, Dr. Sawan, I found him very pro for organ donation at that time. I'm talking about 98. And he had a case of head injury and this thing was brain dead. And he came, yes, we'll certify brain dead. He motivated the family. Family was ready to donate the organs. And we didn't have a liver recipient, though the family gave the consent for liver, kidney, and everything. So kidney were harvested. Now, at that time, people didn't know how to harvest the organs from the cadavers. So, urologist also, they needed my help to harvest the kidneys. So, along with them, I assisted. After the operation, everything was over and everything. Suddenly, I got a memo saying that you have done the transplant without consent and this and that. To the extent the matter was reported to the coroner that I have done a illegal thing. Of course, again, same thing. The truth was with me. There were enough witnesses, everything. And we fought back to up to DMC and AMC, and they ultimately finished that off. There was nothing really you are making. So I realized that people have not left their way, and they want to now harm me directly. Because that coroner complaint, fortunately, coroner knew me. And he called me up. These people want the warrant to be issued against. So that was the situation. And that's the reason I realized that now there is no point in continuing the business. So I started looking for opportunities, and fortunately, Bombay Hospital had the opportunity for GI surgery. And so I accepted that. So it was a very reluctant entry into the private practice.
So do you regret moving into private practice, or did it add a facet to your professional career, to your expertise?
So answer is yes and no. So the thing is that yes, inside I was regretful because I'm leaving behind a proper academic career. I continue to do academics in the private. I try to do the teaching and everything. But I know that there's a limitation. Now, when I decided to go, I was advised by some of the very good well-wishers. And some of them were from pharma industry because they knew what is outside. It is same thing like in the MPSC interview, I was told you don't know that there's no place to stay and all that thing. These people told Dr. Mathur, we have interacted with you. We know that what kind of person you are. You will not survive. You don't know what it is. And one of the person who was a general practitioner in the South Mumbai, I have treated some relatives in Nair. So he said, why don't you come with me one day? I will drive you down everywhere and tell you what the reality is. And he took me around. He showed me the taxi stands, the lobby managers of hotels, and this, that thing, and you know what it is. That all these are on the payrolls of the people. So, are you willing to do that? And when we have 3-4 people of them, they sat with me in my office, and I said, see, I look the way the life is an experiment. You can't run away from that. So I will take it for granted that I'm not going to indulge in any of these things. That I'm very sure. So you won't survive. I will take chance. Let me see this experiment, whether I am failure or I am success. That's what you are asking.
Again, Bombay Hospital, you were there, sir, for how many years were you at Bombay Hospital?
Yeah, so from 98 to 2005, almost 7 years.
And that was exclusively in Bombay?
I was in Hinduja, but then I went back.
And that is exclusively there, nowhere else were you practicing?
Yeah. So the thing is that I always wanted a full time. I never wanted to run around. Okay. And the Bombay Hospital also has a full time, but I didn't know at that time that their full time system is you work here, but they do not pay. You have to generate the work for yourself. There's no fixed payment required. And that is the time I decided to give up general surgery totally. I decided to concentrate only on GI surgery, HPB, and again the liver transplant. They said, yes, we will provide you all the facilities for developing liver transplant. And that was my attraction. And the second thing they said, yes, I will have teaching rights. Already I was a professor and had a postgraduate students under me. But over a period of time, they didn't fulfill all those things. And I realized that again, that I'm unable to do the liver transplant for which I'm moving around. So that was the thing. That was so that is the time Bocard came out. And for some liver trauma cases, difficult cases, the co-picker had to call me for help. It happened once, twice. Some other cases before. And I like the working atmosphere of Bhopal. And so I thought, why not? This is a better place. And they have some full-time system and all that. Why not to explore the possibility? And I just said that commercially I was failure in Bombay Hospital because I was not indulging in the type of thing. It was good enough for me to survive. That was not an issue. So that is the time I was interviewed in the head office and I got the appointment. I thought the things will move there. Things don't move so. It's a different kind of story every time. But the atmosphere was that was most important. I never wanted to handle the money. Always wanted that everything should come as a white money through the hospital with that taxes cut and everything, and I'm at peace with that. I didn't want to get into the under the table culture.
To watch the second part of the interview, please proceed to the next video.